G'day there guys, it's Connor here again from Marky Industries, and we're back with some more stories from Reddit. As always, if you enjoyed these videos, be sure to hit like and subscribe, and also the notification bell so you never miss an episode. Alrighty, let's get right into it. Okie dokie, we're starting on relationship advice. This one was written by a throwaway account, and it's titled, How do I move forward after my daughter hid her father's affair from me for 2 years? I, 49 female, was married to my ex-husband Derek, 49, for 20 years before divorcing a few months ago. We have 2 kids, a daughter, 22, and a son, 17. I found out Derek was having a 2-year affair, and my world was shattered. But what hurt almost as much was discovering that my daughter had known about it the whole time. She actively hid it from me for 2 years, lied, covered for him, and never once tried to warn me. When I found out, I was devastated. Not just by my husband's betrayal, but by my daughter's choice to keep it from me. She was young at the time, and I understand it was a difficult position for her, but the pain was immense. I never confronted her directly, thinking it might affect her as she was about to go off to college. I just told her I knew, that I understood, and tried to move on. But after she left, I found myself distancing myself from her more and more. It wasn't planned. I just needed space to heal, and that meant not calling her as often or reaching out as much. Fast forward a year and a half, and I've started dating someone, 41, who has a 10-year-old daughter from a previous relationship. Recently, we all went to Disney together, and he posted a family photo of us on social media. For context, my boyfriend covered all the expenses as a gift for his daughter's birthday, wanting to make it special for her. Along with my son and me, she chose her 2 cousins to come along, making it a big family-style trip that was all about her. My daughter must have seen it, because she didn't call me for over a month afterward, and honestly, I wasn't as affected by her absence as I would have been before. I still love her, but every interaction brings up that pain. Out of nowhere, she called me in tears. She was screaming, saying I obviously hadn't forgiven her, and that I'd shut her out on purpose. She accused me of replacing her with my boyfriend and his daughter. She kept saying, "It was a long time ago. I was a kid. I didn't mean to hurt you." She said she thought she was doing the right thing by staying quiet, that she didn't know how to tell me, and that she was terrified of breaking our family apart. She asked me if I'd ever forgive her, or if I'd moved on for good. I tried to tell her that I loved her and never wanted to replace her, but she just kept pushing that I should get over it by now, and that I'd abandon her for this new life. To top it off, my ex-husband later called me, furious, accusing me of leaving my daughter for a younger man and a new family. He even had the nerve to call me selfish for moving on. Ironically, his girlfriend is 30, and he's the one who blew up our family with his affair. It's like no one understands that I'm still trying to recover from years of betrayal, and it feels like I'm expected to just let it go, as if my pain doesn't matter. My son, who lives with me, found out about his sister hiding the affair after overhearing my husband's mum and sister talking. He was crushed and hasn't forgiven her either, and they've barely spoken since. I never wanted him to know, but it feels like the entire family is divided now, and I don't know how to fix it. I'm in therapy, but I still feel lost. Part of me knows she was young and didn't know how to handle it, but another part of me feels like she chose him over me. I love my daughter, but every time we talk, that hurt resurfaces. I don't know if I'm failing as a mother or if I'm protecting myself. I feel like I've emotionally checked out, and I don't know how to reconnect. Edit, just to clarify, my divorce actually happened a few months ago, not 3 years ago as I originally mentioned. My sister, who is a bit of a scatterbrain, encouraged me to post here and typed out much of it for me. In the process, she got the timeline wrong, and I didn't catch it before posting. My daughter was 17 when she found out about the affair. She had a lot going on at the time, including having to change schools due to some personal issues and repeating a year. So when I found out, it was less than 2 years ago. I hope this clears up the confusion. Whoa, talk about tricky. I know I say that a lot, but this is genuinely one of the hardest situations I've ever thought about. Seems like Opie's feelings for her daughter are really deeply embedded in trauma, and I empathize with the fact that that must be incredibly hard to shake, even if you want to. I think the ex is definitely out of line for exacerbating the problem as well. He needs to own up to his side of this as well, which is why it all started. Let's go to the comments. This is beyond the pay grade of Reddit. Continue therapy, and maybe joint therapy with your children, as it seems both your son and daughter are still affected significantly by the situation. There is no easy way out of this. The issue with your daughter cannot be solved with the help of Reddit. It's very complicated. It might be that she feels guilty and is not able to forgive herself and is projecting on you. Get into family counseling together. That might help. You should definitely cut all contact with your ex unless it's about your minor child. Keep all communication via text so you don't have to hear his BS. That he thinks he can call you and berate you is unbelievable. Next time, don't pick up or just hang up. Maybe you and your daughter could get therapy together to try and sort things out. I understand she was a kid trying to keep the family together, but your feelings are totally valid. I can't imagine how hurtful it must have been knowing she hid it for so long. The person who needs to take responsibility here is your cheating ex-husband. What is her relationship like with him? Yes, she was young, technically an adult, but still naive to how crappy the world can be, especially when the crappy behavior comes from your own father. But she also needs to understand that your feelings matter and that this kind of hurt may take time to heal. I'm so sorry you're in the position. Stick with the therapy. Hopefully it will help. Opie answers some questions. Has Opie's daughter ever apologized for what she did to her and limit contact with her children's father? She says, "Thank you for your kind words and support. Honestly, my daughter's apology has been complicated. She did express that she was sorry, but it often came with explanations of how difficult it was for her, how she was stuck between her father and me. I can understand that she was young and in an impossible situation, but it still feels like she's brushing aside the depth of the hurt. Sometimes it seems like she doesn't fully understand why it's so painful for me, and that part has been hard to get past. As for my ex, yes, I've definitely limited contact with him to what's necessary for our son. My son mostly stays with me, so that call was a bit unexpected. We rarely speak directly, and when we do, it's usually through our lawyers. Our divorce was only finalised a few months ago, so I'm still adjusting to all the boundaries and just trying to protect my peace. He doesn't deserve any extra energy or emotional space in my life, and I'm doing my best to keep it that way. Opie clarifies on the timeline of the affair. To clarify, my daughter was 17 when she first found out about the affair, but I didn't learn about it until she was 19. Before that, she had a lot of personal struggles, including a serious incident that led to her having to change high schools. This all happened before she found out about the affair, and by the time I learned the truth, she was dealing with the fallout of those issues. I didn't want to burden her further, so I chose not to confront her about the affair. Okay guys, now for an update, 10 days later. First, I want to thank everyone who responded to my post. I was honestly overwhelmed by the sheer number of replies. I tried my best to read through as many as I could, and some of the advice was hard to hear, but necessary. It's been a lot to take in, but one comment really stayed with me. Someone mentioned how fragile life is, and how little time we really have with the people we love. That struck me deeply. I've been so consumed by pain and anger that I forgot to think about what I'd want my relationship with my daughter to look like in the long run. If something were to happen tomorrow, would I be okay with leaving things as they are? That thought stayed with me, and within a few days, I decided to contact my daughter. I told her I wanted us to talk, not to rehash the past or point fingers, but to figure out how we could move forward. She was hesitant at first, which I completely understand. We had the conversation a few nights ago, and while it wasn't easy, I'm grateful she was willing to open up. There were tense moments, and I won't lie, it was hard to hear some of what she said, but for the first time in a long while, I felt like we were finally addressing what had been festering between us. We talked about what had happened, and I finally asked her for the truth about everything. When I first discovered her father's affair, he told me that she had always known about it. In fact, he claimed she had been his ally, hiding things from me multiple times. He even said that she disliked me and was on his side. Hearing that from him was devastating. I couldn't believe my daughter would do something like that, or feel that way about me. The way I found out about the affair was awful, and the idea that my daughter had played any part in it, even unknowingly, made it so much worse. At first, she was very reluctant to talk about it, but eventually she opened up and started sharing everything, including what led up to her actions. A few months before discovering the affair, she had been involved in a difficult situation at her high school. Without going into specifics, it was a matter where her actions led to serious consequences. The school had a zero-tolerance policy, and as a result, she was expelled. She had to transfer to a new school and repeat the year. On top of that, her grades took a hit, and she was finding it challenging to get back on track. When it happened, I felt it was important for her to face the full weight of her actions and take responsibility for what she had done. I grounded her and took away her electronics, hoping the consequences would help her reflect and grow. I wanted her to understand the gravity of the situation and emerge from it as a better person. Her father, however, completely disagreed with my approach. He felt I was being too harsh, insisting that she had already learned her lesson and needed support rather than punishment. The tension in our household became unbearable. Between my frustration with him and my disappointment in her actions, I found it harder and harder to communicate properly with her. There were constant fights, arguments that seemed to erupt over everything and nothing at the same time. It wasn't just them. Therapy over the past year helped me realize that I played a part too. My hurt and frustration often came out as anger, and instead of addressing things calmly, I let my emotions take control. I was constantly angry and frustrated, and my mood probably created an even more tense and uncomfortable environment for everyone. So, when she found out about his affair shortly after, she was angry at me and still reeling from everything that had happened. She admitted that part of her decision to stay quiet was fueled by a desire to get back at me. She felt like keeping the secret was her way of taking revenge, though she now realizes how wrong that was. She also told me she'd tried to get her father to come clean, but he discouraged her from doing so, telling her that I'd already been disappointed enough by her situation and that she shouldn't make things worse. Feeling trapped, she lied and kept lying, hoping it would somehow blow over without me finding out. Hearing this from her was heartbreaking. It didn't justify what she did, but it helped me understand her perspective. Knowing her father pressured her to keep his secret makes my anger towards him even stronger. He broke everything with his affair and then used our daughter to cover for him, making her feel trapped and responsible for his lies. I hate what he put her through. To be honest, our marriage was already going through a rough patch at the time, and we likely would have ended up divorcing anyway. However, it's one thing to fail as a husband, but to fail so completely as a parent is unforgivable. They always had a good relationship, and I never wanted to ruin that for her, even when I was angry. But seeing how he used her in his lies has only deepened my resentment. I told her that I've been hurt, not just by her actions, but by how deeply they shook my trust in her. At the same time, I reminded her that I love her, and I always will. I said that while I can't change the past, I want to rebuild our relationship. We agreed to take things one step at a time. I suggested we try online therapy together, and while she was hesitant at first, she agreed. She's already been seeing a therapist on her own and wasn't sure about opening up in a joint session, but I think she ultimately realized how much I want to make this work. I also brought up her brother. They've never had the closest relationship. He's always been more of a reserved, independent person, while she's more outgoing and emotional. There's been tension between them in the past, and ever since he overheard what happened with her hiding the affair, they've barely spoken. I've tried to talk to him about maybe giving her another chance, even when I wasn't on the best of terms with her. I really want them to have a good relationship, but I also don't want to push him too much. He's his own person, and I don't want him to feel like I'm trying to force him into something he isn't ready for or doesn't want to do. He's allowed to make his own decisions, and if they need time apart to heal, I'll respect that. Someone mentioned the unrealistic standards we often hold women to, and I've been thinking a lot about that. I don't hold her to any impossible standard just because she's a woman. She's the light of my life, but sometimes I realize I've shared everything in such a negative way because of how it all played out. I'm just trying to make sense of it all. I don't know exactly where I stand or what I'm feeling at times. I'm just moving through life like anyone else, doing the best I can. Thank you all again for your advice and for giving me the push I needed to start this conversation. It's not easy, but I'm hopeful we'll get through this, one step at a time. Opie gives additional information in response to a commenter regarding the said incident involving her daughter. Of course, I haven't come to terms with it. You want to give me a recap? Let me give you a frickin' recap. My daughter participated in an inexcusable situation, a situation that pushed another girl so far that she almost did something irreversible, almost destroyed herself. The other girl's parents filed a complaint against the school, and my daughter admitted she was to blame, admitted it, and still made excuses for herself. So yes, I punished her. What the hell else was I supposed to do? Sweep it under the rug? Pretend it didn't happen? My husband sided with her, said she'd been through enough. She'd been expelled, as if that was enough. She threw tantrums, acted like a victim, and kept saying she'd learned her lesson. I did everything a parent is supposed to do. I tried to be the best possible mother I could in that situation. Then I found out my husband was cheating on me. Not just cheating in the most gut-wrenching, humiliating way possible. And what did he say when I confronted him? That my daughter had known all along, that she'd helped him keep his secret, and on top of that, he told me she didn't even like me. You want to talk about poison? That's poison. Hearing that from someone you love, knowing your own child had sided against you in something so vile. But even then, I didn't scream at her. I didn't lash out. I distanced myself, yes, but only because I didn't want to cause more damage. Was I supposed to act like everything was okay? Was I supposed to just hug her and pretend none of this had happened? Everything was not okay. But I'm trying now. I'm trying my level best to fix the situation. My son doesn't want me to. He thinks she's toxic and tells me to stay away from her. But I told him no, she's my daughter and I'm going to try. And yet here you all are, passing your random judgments, like I haven't been breaking my back trying to hold this family together. I didn't ask for your judgment, I was giving an update. But fine, screw you. Another comment says, please let go of the idea of your son and daughter being close. Don't push for it. Don't ask for it. Just let it go. People choose who they want to engage with, and quite frankly, if I were your son, I would not want to be around your daughter either. They won't be close, and you need to be okay with that. Opie says, honestly, I'm coming to terms with it. They have a decent age gap, and their personalities are very different, which often causes friction. Even before her concealment of the affair came to light, they weren't close. There are several reasons for it, and I don't want to paint anyone in a bad light, but it's been like this for some time now. Right now, I'm trying to let my son be his own person and respect his feelings. I don't want to pressure him into prioritizing this relationship. I've also put him in therapy to help him process everything. He's a bit apathetic about the situation. Not towards me, but towards his sister. He just doesn't care anymore, which in some ways feels worse. But this is where things stand for now, and we don't know what might happen in the future. I'm learning to take it one day at a time. Your ex used your daughter's guilt about whatever happened in school as a weapon to manipulate her into staying quiet about his affair to avoid hurting you any more than her actions already had. She was a 17-year-old child being manipulated by her own father. This is entirely 100% on him. He basically told her that if she disclosed his affair, she would be responsible for your further pain and the breakup of your family. What child wouldn't fall into this trap? I hope you can find it in your heart to let this go, because she bears no responsibility here. Your daughter needs to stop running to your ex and complaining about you. If she's really serious about regretting her actions, she would use her brain and realize who is the actual person at fault. Her father. The part where you said women always hold impossible standards with other women, she's doing the same too. She's fine with her dad cheating and having a new family, but she gets angry when you do. Definitely needs therapy. Yeah, I mean, that's a given, right? Like, you can understand the manipulation by her father, and that's vile in and of itself, but it sounds like the daughter basically bullied a kid to the point of suicide and then hid up her father's affair after the fact. You'd think that at her age, 16, 17, she'd know better than that. Like, honestly, it sounds like the product of a broken family, and going by what OP said, the family was broken long before the divorce, for whatever reason. What do you guys think? Let me know your thoughts down below. Maybe I missed the mark, but I don't know, it's tricky, and like that comment before said, way beyond Reddit's pay grade. Anyway, that's the last update for that one so far, and we'll move on to another story. Okay, we're over on Am I the A-hole now? This one was written by user +apricot, and it's titled, Am I the a-hole for not telling my husband to apologize when he was just defending me? This is my first time posting here, but I've commented a lot, so I'm using a new account to stay anonymous. I am the youngest of 7 kids. The problem I have is with the eldest sibling, my sister Mary. Mary has always undermined and judged my choices growing up. For example, when I wanted to take a gap year after high school to save money for university, Mary told me it was a bad idea, and that once I took a gap year, I'd never go back, just like her. I almost didn't go through with it because she made me second guess myself. Then, after the gap year, I changed my major after the first semester, and she yelled at me for hours about how I was going to ruin my life and waste all my money since I couldn't make up my mind. I have countless examples of times she made me cry from her yelling or made me question my decisions, and at the time, I felt compelled to listen to her. After meeting my husband, then boyfriend, and getting a therapist, they both helped me realize I needed to distance myself from Mary because she's extremely toxic and both emotionally and verbally abusive. It took a lot of effort, but I finally went no contact with her. I finished university, got a job in my chosen field thanks to my brother-in-law, moved in with my husband, and eventually got married. For the first time in a long time, I felt truly happy. I still see Mary during family events and holidays. I hate seeing her, but it's my family too, and I don't want to miss out because of her. However, she always finds a way to ruin the holiday for me. She often takes digs at my husband, saying she doesn't like him and that I could do better. My husband usually tells me to ignore her because he thinks she's only doing it for a reaction. Last weekend, we had our Thanksgiving celebration at my mum's house. When we arrived, my husband asked my mum if we could host Christmas at our place since her house is getting too small to fit everyone. Before my mum could respond, Mary jumped in, saying we shouldn't offer a home we didn't buy, and then called my husband a frickin' nepotism baby. That comment made me mad because she knows nothing about my husband's situation. My husband inherited our home from his grandfather after he passed away, so her saying that was incredibly insensitive. Both my mum and I told her off, and she quieted down for a bit. But during dinner, my brother asked me how work was going, and Mary chimed in again, claiming I probably don't work since my husband is rich. I corrected her, explaining that we're not rich and that I work as a preschool teacher and she knows this. Standing up for myself seemed to completely set her off. She yelled at me, saying I was only working there because I couldn't handle the other program I was in, and that she knows I'm not happy with my temporary job and I should be pursuing a more serious career. Mary kept yelling, tearing into my life choices. I got anxious and nervous, as I always do when she yells. It brings back the trauma she caused me. I tried to defend myself but started stuttering, which made her escalate. My mum and siblings tried to get her to stop, but she wouldn't. Then she said something that hurt the most. She called me a disappointment and claimed my mum felt the same way. At that point, my husband lost it. He started yelling at her, which is rare for him since he's usually very calm. He swore at her and called her some names, including a fat B word and a C word. He also called her evil and said no one in the family liked her. It turned into a screaming match. My mum tried to calm Mary down, and my husband, but neither of them would stop. My husband and I ended up leaving and going back to the Airbnb we were staying at. The next day we went back to my mum's house. My husband apologized to my mum for yelling and ruining dinner, but said he wouldn't apologize to Mary. Since then, my mum has been calling me, asking me to get my husband to apologize, to keep the peace. Mary still lives with her, and my mum is tired of her ranting about how rude my husband was and cursing him out. But I told my mum I'm not going to make him apologize. I know he was rude, and some of the things he said were harsh, but Mary was always rude, and no one is telling her to apologize to us. So, would I be the a-hole for not telling my husband to apologize just to keep the peace with my sister? I know that neither of us owe Mary anything, but apologizing would make things easier on my mum. Justified outburst, in my opinion. I mean, what is this sister on about? How can anyone behave like that and say those things and expect other people to just take it? I don't blame the husband here. Let's go to the comments. Not the a-hole, and when should you expect your apology from Mary? I also don't understand why your mother isn't upset. Mary spoke on her behalf, letting you know she's disappointed in you. Does your mother not have a problem with this at all? Or is everyone in this family so scared of Mary that she's just allowed to say whatever she wants? Opie says, honestly, I really do think my family is scared of her. She definitely targets me the most, but she acts like this with everyone, even my mum sometimes. My mum is just getting too old to deal with her. But I did talk to my mum about the comment, and she said she didn't think that way, so I think it was Mary lying to try and hurt me. Absolutely do not apologize to her. She has to understand when you cross boundaries, especially when it comes to a man's wife. He gets to roar. She's ticked that someone finally stood up to her and yelled her down. Tell your mum to stay out of it and absolutely do not invite Mary to Christmas. Your mum might try the old ploy if Mary is not coming, and then she won't. Wish your mum a Merry Christmas and let mum know we'll miss you. Anytime Mary opens her pie hole to hurt you, husband should come out swinging. Mummy is coddled, a tyrant and a loser. It's time Mary, if she F's around, she'll find out every time. No more backing down for family peace. Opie replies, I was definitely never planning on inviting Mary to Christmas, but I'll still invite my mum. You and a lot of others are saying the same thing, but I can't cut contact with my mum. She's the only parent I have, and although she has made mistakes, I can't abandon her. She isn't your mum, although I think she thinks she is because she's the oldest. She probably gave up a lot to help out, so resentment kicks in. She's jealous that you proved her wrong. Oh, so sorry sis, you don't know it all. Not the a-hole. Opie says, that is exactly what my therapist told me. I obviously talk a lot about my sister with her, and she said exactly that. She told me my sister was parentified, and that took away her childhood, so she takes out her resentment on me. I feel bad for that, but it wasn't my choice to have her take care of me, nor did I ask for the abuse. But I'm actually really glad that I proved her wrong. Okay, now for an update. I didn't expect my original post to get so many comments. First, I want to thank everyone who responded. Having a group of strangers get upset on my behalf was incredibly sweet and meant so much to me. Thank you all for your support. My husband also wanted me to pass along his thanks as well for standing up for me. I showed him the post, and he feels vindicated. His words, not mine. He truly is such a wonderful man, and I'm very lucky to have him. I responded to some comments, but I wanted to make a larger post to address the things I saw mentioned the most. 1. I called my mum today and told her that my husband will definitely not be apologising to Mary. He did apologise to the rest of the family for the scene though. I feel bad for my mum, but making the original post gave me the courage I needed to tell her this. I don't like seeing her stressed, but I need to protect my husband, just like he always protects me. My husband read a couple of comments suggesting he could apologise for the language he used. He offered to do that, but I told him it wasn't necessary, since Mary would never return the apology for what she said. My mum said she understood and promised not to bring it up again. I also told her, for her own sake, to ignore Mary if she starts ranting about it again. 2. I saw a lot of comments about cutting off my mum or going low contact with her, also a lot that were bashing her. I want to say up front that I'm not going to do that, nor do I appreciate those rude comments. I agree that my mum has enabled some of Mary's behaviour, but she's not a bad mum. She's always tried to control Mary, but Mary doesn't listen to anyone. My mum raised 7 kids on her own. Our dad died when I was 2, and Mary was 14. It's impossible to pay attention to everything with so many kids, and I don't blame my mum for not being able to stop the abuse when it started. I didn't even know it was abuse when I was a kid. I thought that's just how older sisters are supposed to be. My mum worked a lot to support us when we were kids, and unfortunately for all of us, this meant that Mary was forced to take on a parental role, and since I was the youngest, it made her both become very attached and resentful towards me. Words from my therapist. My mum has made mistakes, but so has every parent, and I'm not going to hold a grudge against the only parent I know. However, I think having a serious conversation with her would be a good idea. I might even bring her to a therapy session so we can talk about everything Mary put me through. I haven't talked to her about it much, and what my mum knows is just the tip of the iceberg. She really does try her best to parent us, she always has, but Mary is too much for everyone. Many people asked why Mary still lives at home. I mentioned this in a comment, but Mary has a chronic pain disease that forces her to take a lot of time off work. I also think it's another reason why she is so mean. I won't go into details, but she does have a job, but she can't afford to live on her own. None of my siblings are willing to take her in, and most of them are low contact with her since she treats us all the same. My mum isn't the kind of person to turn her back on her kids, so she lets Mary stay. I also think she does this as a way of making it up to Mary for relying on her so much for childcare. Some comments asked if Mary was abusing my mum. I want to clarify that this isn't the case. For everything Mary has done, she's never put her hands on anyone. While she does fight like this with my mum sometimes, she treats her much better than the rest of us. The worst thing she does is use my mum as her personal therapist. Mary is absolutely not coming to Christmas. I was never planning to invite her, and my husband would never allow her within 20 feet of our home. She will throw a fit, but we don't care. I love the holidays, and for once I'd like to spend them with people who actually care about me. I also think it's a good idea to take your advice to avoid family gatherings if Mary is present. That will be hard because I don't want to miss time with the rest of my family, but I'll just make plans with them individually. Once again, thank you to everyone who commented. You've given me a lot to think about, and I'm planning to share some of your comments with my therapist to work through them. Some of them hit me hard, and I need time to unpack everything. This will be my last update, and I'll be deleting this account sometime after posting this. Take care, and I wish you all the best. From me and my husband, we hope you have a wonderful holiday. One comment asks, my only question is, what will happen to Mary when your mother passes? Opie says, I really don't know what will happen then. It's hard to think about that. What I do know is that when that time comes, whatever happens to Mary will be none of my concern. Maybe I'm reading this wrong, but it kind of feels like Opie can acknowledge that Mary mentally abused her, but can't acknowledge that her mum being around Mary 24/7, with Mary acting like a zero-calorie version of herself towards mum, is still abuse. I keep posting in Am I the A-hole that all keeping the peace does is encourage a-holes to keep being a-holes. Glad to see Opie isn't falling down that rabbit hole. As the oldest of 8 kids, I can understand that Mary's likely full of resentment and anger as a result of her parentification, but this is not the way. Trauma doesn't justify wanton mistreatment of others. Mary, if you ever read this, get your ass to therapy. Failing that, at least take a big step back and carefully consider how you want the rest of your life to proceed. Yeah, good advice for Mary, I think. Anyway guys, that's the end of that story. As always, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Let me know, and we'll move on to another one. Okay, we're moving back over to relationships. This one was written by user One Last Time, and it's titled, My stepsister, 20, texted me, 21 male, last night asking why we aren't so close anymore, and I said it's because how bad we treated each other growing up. Should I feel bad for not wanting to be close with her? My mum died when I was 6, and my dad remarried when I was 9. The woman he married had a daughter 1 year younger than me, so she was 8. At first, I loved having a new mum. She wasn't the best and will never replace my real mum, but I appreciated her trying to be there for me, and I'm pretty close with her and my dad. At first, I loved having a sister, and we got along great. I loved having a playmate during vacations and always having a player too. The problems really started to amp up when I was 13 and she was 12. It seemed like no matter what I did went unpunished in her eyes, and she had to mock me constantly. Being a hot-headed 13-year-old usually meant I'd retaliate, and we would have those long screaming matches till either of our parents told us to knock it off, or they'd send up to different parts of the house to cool off. I also started playing football in high school, and my problem was that I was constantly getting injured. In 8 years, from 11 to 18, I broke my arm, pinky, wrist, got 2 concussions, tore my ACL, sprained my MCL, and dislocated my shoulder. On top of all of that, I was kinda chubby. I don't want to say I was fat. I was about 180 to 210 from the ages of 14 to 18 at 6'2". She used to make fun of me for my injuries and my weight, which were very touchy subjects for me. Her favourite insult was, "You fat cripple loser," or maybe if you lost some weight you wouldn't get injured so often. Back then those insults really ticked me off, but I kept trying to be the older brother and just told her to shut up, fight back, or storm off. She also loved to embarrass me when friends were over by bringing up dumb stuff I did when I was like 9 or 10. My friends are great people, but we tease each other a lot and would usually remember anything embarrassing we did and bring it up later. So whatever she said to them would always get back. I did talk to her if she could just shut up when I had my friends over, and she basically told me to F off and that it's her house too. At this point in my life, 16 years old, I'm super ticked at how crappy she's treated me over the years. I know I caused some of it and usually fought back when she got snippy and bratty at me, but to me, she started more fights than I did. I did try to talk to my dad and stepmom about the way me and her treat each other, and they basically said it's normal sibling rivalry. Her antics got a lot worse, and her words got more and more mean-filled and vile, which meant I would retaliate with just as mean and vile-filled insults. I will not sit here and say I wasn't just as mean to her as she was to me. I used to bully her relentlessly for these hair buns she would wear from 13 to 14. If you want a picture, just look up the buns Leia wore from Star Wars. I also told her plenty of times that I hate her and don't consider her family. I've apologized so much for those two because I do feel bad. Even though she hasn't apologized, I know she feels bad too. I bet there were some other moments, but they didn't happen to me, so I probably forgot them. I moved out when I was 18 without ever sending her a text message goodbye or even telling her I was moving out. The past 5 years of unpleasantness between us made me happy that I didn't have to see her. A year later, she moves out, and I still resented her for how we treated each other. We go almost 2 years without speaking to each other than on holidays, and that's really only dry stuff, nothing big. I'm now 21 and she's 20, and I got a text the other night asking why we aren't close like we were when we were kids. I basically said I don't care to get along with you or get close because of how we treated each other as kids. She told me to grow up, and not even an hour later, I get a call from my dad asking why I have so much hate for my sister years since we've lived together. I told him I'll be cordial and won't cut her out of my life, but I don't need or want to be close with her. How do I go about telling her that I don't want us to be close yet, until we both want to be close, but leaving the door open for her not to resent me, and we can still love each other? Edit. I would like to point out that I was just as mean to my stepsister. I don't have examples because it's been 5 years and didn't stick with me like hers did, but our fighting growing up did go both ways. Edit 2. Some people have said that I shouldn't cut her out of my life, and I agree with that. I love her and want to be there for her, but I don't like her enough to be close with her. And edit 3, I added more to the story of how I was crappy to her too. Let's read some comments. I don't think you should feel bad at all for not wanting to be close with her. Based on her response, she clearly doesn't feel bad about what she did. Her whole "why aren't we close anymore" deal sounds like a way for her to try to get you to pretend it never happened, while also not acknowledging or apologizing for the horrible things she did. It sounds like you have and will be much happier without her playing a significant role in your life. Opie says, "Thanks for the comment. I love her as much as an older brother can, but I don't really want her in my life that much at this point. Maybe when we're older and it will get better, but as of right now, I still think she's too unpleasant to get close with." Quote, "She told me to grow up. I did grow up, and I made the grown-up decision that I don't need to have people who treat me like crap in my life. I thought you might have been a bit unreasonable and you should just give it a try, but her response shut that down. She isn't willing to work on issues, she just wants to dismiss your feelings and pretend nothing ever happened. If she was able to apologize and meet you halfway, in terms of getting to know each other again, then yeah, sure, you might get a good relationship, but saying, 'Oh, are you still mad over that?' confirms she doesn't. Keep doing what you're doing. Be polite and cordial. Don't hate her, but don't get close. Explain it to your dad, but don't make it a big deal that she has to apologize for what she's done. Keep it conflict-free and it's fine. Not everyone does have close relationships with their siblings." Opie replies, "I honestly want that close relationship with her, I just can't do that right now. Wounds are a little too fresh, and I don't want to be bogged down living my life by having to be constant contact with someone I don't really like at this point in my life." Jesus Christ, I feel so bad for you. Your stepsister was a pretty awful teenager. It's okay that you don't want to talk to her or be close with her. This sounds like a pretty toxic relationship that, unfortunately, your father and stepmother enabled, and your father is currently enabling. I do actually see this dynamic pretty often in families where one person is just a giant sack of crap, but family, and so everyone else is just expected to roll over and take it for the sake of peace. Your father asking about so much hate is probably just him being unwilling to lose his stepdaughter's favourite punching bag, because then things might be uncomfortable for him and his wife. Opie replies, "My dad is a great guy, and I know he didn't call me because she told him to. He called me because he felt like he messed up making us get along. Most of the time they would punish us when we fought, so we did it when they couldn't hear. I don't even want to call my stepsister a POS, but she is selfish. She was awful to me as a teen, but I'd be lying if I wasn't awful right back to her. She did start almost all the fights though." Now for an update. After our text convo that led to my dad calling me asking what's wrong between us, I texted her about a meetup at my place. This was the first time we actually met or hung out outside of a family gathering. Before she came over, that realization gave me a new look on our relationship. The whole sit-down went well. We actually got along and there wasn't any name-calling or anything mean. We talked about how we treated each other, and this was the first time I've ever heard her apologise for how she treated me growing up, and I did the same. We talked about how the text convo went, and I came to the conclusion that I still had the old image of how she was when I last saw her at 17, and was using that to picture her now. She still kinda acts the same, kinda moody, but can hold it in so much better now, but it's a lot better. We talked it out and spent about half the day together just hanging out, and I will admit I enjoyed it. I don't think we'll be super duper close, but it's a step in the right direction, and there isn't a wall of tension between us anymore. Thank you all for the advice and comments. It really came in handy, and I appreciate it. One comment says, I'm really envious but extremely proud of you. Up till now, I still can't make things right between my big sis and me, but that's okay. Maybe we just need to mature and talk it out. Opie says, give her a shot. Invite her to a coffee meetup. That's what we did, and it really helped. Make sure it's public so things can't escalate to an actual screaming match. Yeah, good advice, and a good ending for Opie and his sister here. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Either way, that's it from me today. Hope you guys enjoyed those stories. Thanks for making it to the end, and I'll see you all in the next video. Happy holidays. Cheers.